Hi everyone and welcome to my lunging Strike Barb guide for season 11. This is a build I've enjoyed quite a lot in previous seasons. It was already kind of top of the meta for the barbs for a while and it has gotten a lot better this time. In fact, we expect it to be one of the best builds overall in the entire game actually come season 11. It is very smooth, easy to play, tanky, has very good damage output, especially AoE, but we also expect it to be one of the highest pushing builds thanks to some updates, for example with the Selic and the Hammer of the Ancients. So I will present you my planner. We also have a macro guide by Beatdropper. I will show this off real quick as well. That goes into a little bit of a different direction and into a lot more detail. So I'm just gonna have this down in the description as well for you guys to check out. But overall, I can say I had a ton of fun with lunging Strike Barb in previous seasons. I'm definitely going to make this again. And it is one of the builds to play effectively in season 11. So here's my planner. We have a few different setups here, starting with Ancestral. It is a little bit gear heavy, so you can't really play this that well from level 1. Now technically you can play Lunging Strike from level 1, but it is going to be mostly based on the tech rune. So you can do money plus tech if you have those two runes. And then you can spawn earthquakes, but then you're more like an earthquake barb, just using lunging strike. So effectively, if you really want to play this setup, it does require some uniques. More importantly, here we have the Shard of Erathiel and Pain Gorgers. So you kind of want to have at least those, and also the Hooves of the Mountain God, I would say, in order to actually really play this setup. So they have like the main multipliers, and you have the cleave, and you have the spread for the AoE damage. This is done by the wolves. So we have the same rune here plus say. We spawn these wolves, they trigger Pain Gorgers, and then you can hit any target and the damage will spread to everything. So this is kind of like the key combo, I would say. And you see there's a bunch of other uniques as well in there that are mostly supplemental, but you also want to stack a lot of cooldown reduction in order to get your Wrath of the Berserker constantly, like Ugly Bastard Helm. You want like tempers potentially here for Wrath of the Berserker, and even Rage of Harrogate helps a little bit early on. So you see there's a bunch of stuff like this. So it's not really the most just jump in and blast kind of build. But as I mentioned, we also have the macro guide here. So there is a starter variant as well with kind of lower requirements and how to get going, and a lot more other details about this. So you can check this out here from Beatdropper. I will also link this. So how does the build actually function? Well, lunging strike is your main attack. We're just trying to beef this up as much as possible. This is a basic skill, but it does cost resources thanks to the Shard of Erathiel. So we need to have some sort of resource generation, but it's not really the biggest deal because it already generates resources by itself. So you get like kind of half of it back by default. And then later you actually have some resource cost reduction effects like Ring of Starless Skies, for example. You also have a lot of built-in fury per second generation here. Now the thing is that you also drain fury quite fast with this. So this item both gives you fury and drains it. But more importantly, when you are kind of out of combat, not attacking at all, then you will always have some fury to kind of start the cycle of attacking, which is the important part here. So it could potentially happen that you actually don't have enough fury to even get going, but the boots actually prevent that. That's also why I think they're kind of very nice to have to even get started. So you always have a fury regeneration, but then whenever this effect triggers, it starts draining and you have to kind of fight against the fury drain with your attacks. So generally you can stay at 100% as long as you kind of keep fighting and keep attacking and run from pack to pack, and then you're gonna be fine. Most of the other items are only really here for big damage multiplier really. So we have Ramadatnis with the extra resource scaling. The same goes for adaptability. So this is like a double dip on maximum resources here, and this build has a lot of it. You can get like 300 plus resources. You can go even more. Actually, this has 365 here. So Grandfather also has it, for example. And there's some stuff on the Paragons. And with Hammer of the Ancients that was buffed, you can now actually also use this, for example, in pushing. So this effect was updated to now give you more maximum resources as well. And then you can also go for the Selic. So this is like something that we see here, I think in the Sanctified variant, for example, from the Maxwell guide. So Selic can double your maximum resources. So you have a way larger pool and buffing both of those multipliers. And then you can also throw in like Hoda. This is mostly something for like the high end, when you actually go for like the top pushes or something. But then you can like weave it in sometimes, get this extra resource buff. But it's not currently shown out as tooltip, but it's in the patch notes. And like this, you have even more damage. So that's kind of how you push to like hit 110 or maybe even 120 on the very high end. So this will go pretty far up. A bunch of other damage modifiers. So Ugly Bassetem has its own multi with the 60% increased fire damage. We actually do fire damage, not physical. So in case you have a, like, you know, temper or whatever, you might pick something up that has fire damage. Just keep that in mind. Grandfather, again, also a huge damage buff, big stats, very nice. Battle Trance is a bit of an interesting item here. So not only do you get a lot of damage and attack speed, but also it has insane stats and you trigger Frenzy by just attacking with a Lunging Strike. So in order for that to work, you don't actually have to have it on your bar. You can just invest those 3 points here. So Enhanced Frenzy does not actually work with this, but you do get the extra attack speed here, and they also get the extra damage reduction and movement speed there. And on top of that, you have this unique effect of the item itself. Which is a very strong item, and this is why it's included here. The thing is, you kind of need a little bit of like either lucky hit or like there's frenzy duration. So we have this here actually on the pants. You see this, I invested into this as well. You can get a lot of frenzy duration. And with, you know, one temper like that, you will usually have those 5 stacks consistently, even on boss. So this is why this is included. And finally, as for the other aspect here, we have Moonrise as well. Moonrise is like a basic skill aspect, gives you attack speed, lots of damage. We throw this in here, very nice. And for our last rune setup, we have Moni and Zek. So Lunging Strike is a mobility skill. You can use Moni with that, which is actually a very nice combo. You can kind of proc anything really easily with this. In our case, we go for Zek. So Zek gives us more Wrath of the Berserker casts. So the idea is that you always have Wrath of the Berserker up. You want to cast it at least once every 10 seconds. So you invest quite a bit into the cooldown reduction. And if you can even cast it earlier because it has like a pull-in effect that is a little bit like Death Trap Rogue, for example. You just don't spam it as much, but it pulls like the entire screen, which is very helpful. And like this, you can usually, like, you know, jump into a pack, press Wrath, and everything gets pulled and it explodes. So this is kind of the idea. Otherwise, you just want to try to use this as much as possible for its berserking uptime. This is like the main source of berserking here, unstoppable. And you have this ramping damage buff as well, which is very nice. Now you can obviously take this build a lot further when you start sanctification. So I have this here as well. So you can either go like the aesthetic route that we just saw, or you can, for example, try to get something like this here. So we don't know 100%, but if adaptability exists on the neck, then you can get this here. That's like a really huge upgrade, for example. And there's a bunch of other, like, you know, lots of small aspects that you can try to throw on your gear, like this here. Barbs have a lot of slots for those aspects. So once you actually get into this like sanctification territory, it can get really wild. So we'll see exactly how this plays out. We don't know what aspects are available and so on, how this will go, but it's just kind of like a concept here. So you have this as well. One thing to note about your weapon setup. So you want to use a two-handed bludgeoning weapon for your Lunging Strike. You can like assign the different weapon, usually with, on PC with your mouse wheel button, you press it, and you see this here at the bottom, the arsenal selection. The reason for two-handed is Ramatnis actually works no matter which weapon you actually are using in that moment. So you can always get this multiplier, and two-handed is just kind of stronger than other setups. Mostly because of Valorp and heavy-handed. Those are very strong passives and kind of like tip the balance in favor of two-handed. So of course, if you don't have a good two-handed weapon, you can also like make this different. But at least in late game, you want to have this version here. Besides that, here's the skill tree. Nothing really changes throughout the setups. Just for speed farming, it looks a little bit different because you go for a leap. But yeah, we invest into Lunging Strike and then like lots of damage passes and kind of some utility skills. So everything here is kind of like damage or defensive passives. Ground Stomp is kind of useful because it allows you to reset your ultimate a little bit more often. So that's kind of nice together with the Zek rune, for example. You can like Ground Stomp on like a guy or a pack and it resets your ult. Otherwise, your shouts, you use them on demand. Here's Warcry, here's Challenging Cry, there's Iron Skin. You're very tanky with those skills. Iron Skin got a huge buff lately. It gives you like Giga Barrier and healing and damage reduction. Very good stuff. And then Wrath basically as often as possible. And for the Paragons, it is also relatively straightforward. I do have a few different steps here, so you can see this when you start early on. You can just like follow the number of the boards, and then you fill it out more and more with like the different like Paragon steps that we have here. So you can see that. and the glyphs are all here. Besides that, the Paragon is nothing really special. It's mostly just like damage modifiers, and yeah, this is about it basically. And yeah, lastly, about the speed farming. So this is what I have here. So in that case, I actually did put in a static as well in this version, and we go for the new Chain Scourged Mail. So this is like the new unique item that resets your brawling skills all the time. In our case, the only damaging brawling skill that we have is Leap. And this means that every time you leap, you instantly reset it, because all of your brawling skills have to be on cooldown, and then you get a reset. So in this case, you kind of get permanent leap all the time just from this pair of pants. So this is why this is included. If you want to go real fast, then we have that. But it will cost you a little bit of like damage, because you can't do this whole like frenzy and frenzy duration combo. And hectic is also pretty nice to have early on, since you're constantly spamming basic skills. So, you know, this is mostly just like once you're kind of decked out, I think it's going to be a very nice combo. And Leap itself was also buffed to now scale more with attack speed, so you can jump really fast. So we're going to see a lot of like, you know, gummy bear barbs basically. And it's going to be really smooth and flying through those maps. So it's gonna like destroy like paid speedruns and stuff like that. So I'm very excited to try this out. And this is where I put a new item as well. And that's it for this guide. So hope you enjoyed this. I wish you good luck in Season 11. Personally, I'm definitely excited for some Barb action. I will play Lunging Strike, and we'll see. Probably one of the Earthquake builds or so. The Barbs in general are looking really good, it turns out. And with, like previously, I had them a bit underestimated. But we have a lot of really good stuff here right now. So go check it out. Hope you enjoyed this video. And like, subscribe, and see you guys next time.